Y'all can welcome the people.
Hello,
Hello, everyone.
hello, Facebook and radio world. We are the Allens, and we are here with our guest of the evening, the Stewart's.
Hi, everybody.
And we will be talking about, tell them what we're going to be talking about, Tiffany.
Surviving infidelity.
That's what we're going to be talking about, surviving infidelity and how that happens. They're going to give us their testimony of how this happened and how they overcame. And they still in love 20 years later. How about that? Won't God do it? Woo! So this is our story today. You're going to be hearing from us probably a little bit, but not as much as you're going to hear from them tonight. You're not going to hear from the Alice tonight as much as you're going to hear from the Stewart's tonight. So I will let them introduce themselves and give you a little bit of background on who they are.
Wow, would you like me to go first?
Yes.
We are. I'm Ed Stewart. This is my wife of 20 years, Tiffany Stewart. We are excited to be here with the Allens. Always excited about sharing our testimony.
Amen.
We hope that at some point throughout our testimony that it will inspire or at least allow someone to be encouraged about whatever their experience they're going through as far as their marriage.
Oh, hi. As he said, we've been married not quite 20 years. Our 20th anniversary is July 10th.
You didn't have to ruin it.
So I'm very excited. We're doing a vow renewal. Super excited. We didn't have a wedding. We got married at the courthouse. And so we're doing a 20-year vow renewal, the whole shebang, the whole kit and caboodle.
Yes.
All the money, the dress, the cake,
Come on,
you name it,
come
we are
on,
doing
y'all.
it. Even getting a honeymoon, so
Come on,
yeah.
that's what's up. Woo!
I know, right? I'm so excited.
You gonna have your Cinderella story? Huh?
I am.
Okay.
I am.
Okay. All right. So
So what would you like to know?
the first things I would like to know is you got to tell both a little bit about y'all's personalities. Tell the people about who y'all are and
Go ahead, Reverend.
where'd y'all meet at? Okay, where'd y'all meet at? Let me ask that question first. Where did y'all meet? Was it like love at first sight, or did it take a little work?
This is intense.
It is. When she first seen me,
I told y'all.
yeah, she knew that I was the one. I stroked her leg, and from that point on,
Come on, doctor.
I had a hook.
That's the story we're going with tonight.
You put that whooping pill on her, huh?
Yeah, she said it's magic. That's what she said.
And she said, "You."
What's going on right
Magic.
That's what she said. Right there, you go.
Oh,
Know that song.
That's Indian girl. That's the good one. That's a new one, honey. You gonna have to check her out. Check her out. Check her out. Okay. So
We did actually meet at work. I was in a relationship when we met. I've been in a relationship for 7 years. I already had 3 children. So I was with my 2 youngest children's father. It was interesting. We became friends first. We had a really good. He did rub my leg, y'all. That wasn't a story. He did really rub my leg. I don't know if that was the hook part or, but we became friends first. Conversation was always amazing. Even now, we can talk about anything, and I mean anything. There's nothing off limits, and it's been that way since the beginning of time. He's still my very best friend. I am still madly in love with him 20 years later. I was talking to Juanita and Jason, and I was telling them, we kind of talked about infidelity, and we'll get into that in a minute. But I was telling them, if the infidelity piece had to happen all over again for us to get to where we are right now, I would relive that all over again. Only because we are where we are. I'm extremely happy. I'm smiling. This is my real smile. I'm extremely happy. I'm in love with him. He is good to me. He's been good to our children, and they are our children. 20 years in, they're our children. So he's excellent with our children. Go ahead, babe, because I can talk all night.
What would you like me to say? 20 years in, It's amazing because, of course, we have a blended family. When we entered the marriage, she had 3 children and I had 1. So of course we add that element to our marriage, which is also being a blended family, which offers a completely different dynamic, especially when we were coming out of previous relationships. So you add, of course, being in your 20s, married now with 4 kids, and we still have the parents of our children who also have to interact and be a part of our now family. So a lot of interesting dynamics, a lot of things to navigate in the beginning, a lot of things to navigate through in the beginning.
I think,
Yes.
I think what's important for people to understand, so let me tell you guys how this happened right quick. We met at work. As I said, I was in a relationship, like literally, I lived with my children's father. We argued about whether or not he was in a relationship. I say he would, he say he wouldn't, whatever. Anyway, so we met in July of 98, August of 98. We married in July of 99. So that lets you know that I think we finally decided to start courting like in January.
You realize how
Oh my
great
God,
I
again
was.
with her great Again with the great He's
I love it.
He's
Yes.
great. No sarcasm. He's great. Well, a little, but he's great. I met his mom June 11th.
Yes.
We got married July 10th. When I say I met his mom, he pulled me up to his mom's job. She came outside.
Is that all right?
Yes.
You
She
went to her
came.
job?
We was at her
I'm
job.
sorry,
We were on our
I'm
way
trying
out of
to
town. She came outside and he said, "I've met the love of my life." And his mom said, "What a happy day.
That's what she said.
Never seen me before." And I thought, "Oh, so sweet. That's a compliment." Not really. So that is what happened. And the funny thing is we were headed to go. I met his mom that day and his dad the next day.
We were headed to
Champagne?
we were.
With our 4 children?
4 children.
With our 4 children.
Yeah.
So
We was moving.
we were moving. We were in a fast track relationship.
We-
Baby.
And here's the thing.
We were moving.
I wasn't desperate to get married. Keep in mind, I was in a relationship. I had been in a relationship for years. He had been in a relationship for 10 years prior to that.
Yeah.
And so we weren't, it wasn't like we hadn't been in a relationship or we had kids, so we were good. We were good. When he says he was great, he was not only what I wanted, but he was what I needed. He
Come
brought some
on now.
things to my life, some stability that I didn't know that I lacked. He introduced me to some things that I had never experienced before. I was a teenage mother, had my first child at 16. I had my children at 16, 18, and 20. So my ability to get outside of Kansas City was limited. My ability to explore things. Now, when he met me, I was working, so I wasn't quote unquote poverty stricken, but it was a struggle because I had 3 kids. But one of the requirements for me in a relationship moving forward from my children's father was that the person who was with me had to accept me and my children. It's never been a question. It's never been a question. It's always been me, him, and all 4 of our children. And now, our 2 grandkids and our 2 grandkids? Oh yeah, our 2 grandkids and 1 on the way. I was like, how am I get nobody? Okay.
So, who made the first move? That was him?
Oh yeah, that was him.
You made the first
I
move?
did,
Yes,
I did.
child. He rubbed my leg. Literally, he rubbed my leg. We were at work, and he rubbed the back of my leg, and I'm thinking, bruh, that's not appropriate
okay.
work. You know, now that would be sexual harassment. We'd both be fired in the
Right,
office.
right.
So, yeah.
It didn't happen like that then, though.
No, not
So, okay, so y'all was on a fast track relationship and it was all going smooth.
It was.
When did you start hitting bumps in the road? How long, since it was so fast track in the beginning, how long did it take before bumps came?
Which bump?
Whichever bump that led you guys to start maybe not seeing eye to eye or whatever.
I'm about to say, what's the first big hurdle that you all had to deal with that possibly made you second guess?
Disney?
No.
Disney?
No. think it was just a number of things. It was all the naysayers, those who were on the outside of the marriage, who felt like they needed to interject their opinions and thoughts, whether it be still previous relationship or someone frustrated at the fact that we were not married. So we had to deal with outside individuals injecting their opinions and emotions and feelings. That was the first hurdle.
And it was close individuals. It wasn't, you know, these weren't people
It's
from far
always
away.
close.
Oh,
This was like, you know, again, I met his mom 29 days before we got married. Literally, like, a 5-second meeting. This is her only child, so I'm sure she was like, you married this chick with all these kids, you know. And then my mother, you know, and he had kind of met my family and everything, but I think the night before we got married, both of our best friends were there. Do you remember? They both came over, and they wanted to be sure this is what we wanted to do. I don't know how this was going to affect them, because they didn't know each other. But they were both there. They wanted to be certain that this is what we wanted to do.
But I will say, from the beginning, the parents were never really an obstacle. My mother never, if she thought it, she kept it to herself. She never really had an opinion as far as, other than asking, was I sick or was Tiffany sick? Was someone dying? Because she couldn't believe that we was getting married so quickly. But outside of that, she's always been, for the most part, supportive of the marriage.
And she is amazing. She is good to me. I don't have any, you know, people say their mother-in-law. That is my mother-in-law. She has accepted my children. I always tell her she's the sweetest woman I've ever met. Just as sweet as she can be. So.
Okay, we understand that naysayers on the outside stuff.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of marriages face that in the beginning.
Right.
You know, and you just have to, you know, understand that if you're sound and what you have is sound and the foundation is solid, that who cares what anybody else thinks, you know? Clearly, marriages have survived. Yours has survived 20. Ours has survived 17. So does it really matter what naysayers say? But for those people who are out there who may be worried about what other people think, you know, sometimes you can't worry about what other people think. It's between you, God, and that mate. Nobody else's opinion really matters. You can hear him out. Now, if he's smacking your head around and all that stuff, you know, that's a whole nother story. And they saying, don't marry him. He's not good for you, or blah, blah, blah. That's a whole nother story. You know, if he's already cheating before you marry him, then that's probably not a good idea that this guy, I don't know that he's really ready to be married, you know, if he's still testing the waters everywhere else. You know what I'm saying? So, needless to say, that is a portion. Naysayers, they're going to always be there. We still have them.
Yeah, 20 years later, I'm sure there are people who thought we would never make it. I mean, and there's probably people who still thinking, keep thinking, because we good.
We're good.
Yeah,
We're good. It's all good.
We solid in here. We good.
Okay, and so, with that being said, so the naysayers and things like that.
That was the beginning.
That was the beginning.
So we made it through that hurdle. The kids was a little difficult.
I was about to ask that because,
Absolutely.
you know, we don't have a blended family, but I will be doing a show probably with some folks that have blended family. But since you guys are here and y'all sharing y'all story, we might as well ask a little bit about the blending. You know, did it blend together like the deck of cards? You know, when you shuffling the cards, you go brrr, and they come together and you push it together and it goes so smooth. Did it do like that, or was it?
You know how you blend the cards together and they all fly all over the place?
Yeah,
It went like that.
Oh, okay.
You know, when you're shuffling and somebody really don't know how to shuffle and they the cards, it went like that.
Okay, I got it.
Keep in mind, he only had one child and I had 3.
Okay.
And so he's an active father in our youngest daughter's life, and my 2 youngest children's father was.
He was active.
He was active.
Absolutely.
And so there was a little bit of a dynamic because both of the girls were daddy's girls. My daughter loved her father, and his daughter loved. That's so weird to say. It's her. It's so weird. So it was difficult. It was difficult for them all to mesh together. So I have 2 boys and a girl, and so I think the girls were bigger than the boys, were rougher than the boys initially.
Yes.
Yeah, the girls were a little bit rougher, because girls are daddy's girls, and trying to go from being the only child and then my daughter being the only girl, for them to try and merge that relationship. We made the choice. I think the conversation we had with them was, suck it up. We're not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. Figure it out. And that was kind of the stance we had took with everybody. This is what it is. This is how we gonna live our life. Either get in where you fit in or get on. And that was the stand that we took. That's the stand we take pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
So
Nothing's changed.
yeah, so it was not peaches and cream, but we made a conscious effort. And once we made a conscious effort to present a united front, our children had no choice but to line up. There was no, I'm going to tell my daddy, I'm going to tell my mama. And they try that, and we're like, no, we don't do that.
Because kids definitely, I know kids will try it.
Yeah,
we
just decided that we were going to communicate. So before I made a decision concerning any of the 4 children, I had a conversation with him. So they wouldn't be able to come back and say, my mama said blah, blah, blah. No, we don't do that.
Okay.
So
that was the portion of getting through that second hurdle. The kids trying to get together. Okay, so at what point? Okay, so how can I pose this question? Okay, so after all of these things happened and y'all overcame that, at what point did the infidelity come? Because everything was fast tracked,
Was there one particular situation, or was it just something that happened over time?
Something that happened over time, and I think she can elaborate on that, and then I'll chime in.
It was something that happened over time. I think it's important. Let me give this disclaimer here. There wasn't him not paying the bills. I've never had an issue with him bringing his money home. There wasn't him not coming home at night. To be honest, I had no idea he was having an affair. And that's part of the problem. So I took a job taking care of an elderly sick lady. I would go to work at 9 o'clock at night. I would get off at 7 in the morning. And then I would go to work from 7:30 to 3:30 and do substitute chief duty. I did that for 4 years, Monday through Friday. So I only slept at home in my bed on Saturdays and Sundays. So at the time, his uncle became ill. So he started taking care of his uncle with dementia. He also was a football. He also refereed football and umpired baseball. So in the summer, we always took vacation. We would take a 2-week vacation. We would take road trips. But what he needed from me emotionally, I just wasn't there. And I think that's why it's so important to understand what your spouse's love language is. Because I was about the money. I was more in love with the money than I was with being married or even with my husband. I love money because I was like, we gonna get this money. We gonna go to Disney. We gonna do this. He like, I just want you to be at home at night. I'm like, that's cool, bro. But let's get this money.
So we enter 3 or 4 years, and we're still on the track of where she's working nights, and then during the day she was working for the school district. For me, I was working my day job, and then of course I would go and take care of my uncle in the evening. So we would literally see each other for a 30-minute span as I was getting home, making sure the kids were situated and ready for bed, and getting them prepared for the next morning, because when she would leave her overnight job, she would be going straight to the school district. Me, I would be getting the kids up in the morning, getting them ready for school, and then I would go to work. So our paths never crossed, and they only crossed on the weekend. So what happens is, for men, and I was talking about this Sunday, we are taught to be, not taught, we are told not to express a lot of emotion. So we don't understand the significance or the emotional attachment that you should have with your spouse. So although I was saying to her 3 years later, hey, I need you to stop, right? Subtle, but I'm telling her, we've done this long enough, I need you to come home, right? We got to get this money. We having these 2-week vacations. And we were going, the kids were going, you name it, the kids been there. Disneyland, Disney World, Florida, Tampa, Texas, Ohio, Cedar Point. We were doing road trips and we was doing them big. But there was a disconnect emotionally that you don't realize is happening because it's so subtle. So the infidelity piece came from just a simple conversation with an individual.
Wow.
It's real subtle, right? And over a period of time, those conversations increase because now that emotional connection that I wasn't getting at home, don't get me wrong, the physical was there. She come on the weekend when she's home, we getting it in.
Okay.
This is adult TV.
Adult TV.
So,
That's how we won't keep
so
it.
from a physical standpoint,
Right.
there was nothing defiled about us because we were adults enjoying our marriage. From a physical standpoint, from an emotional standpoint, there was a disconnect that we did not even realize had even happened because it was so subtle. Please.
The emotional piece that he speaks of that I should have needed from my husband, I didn't need because I never had it. So, my biological father spent some time in prison. My mom's been married a long time. My bonus dad is amazing. Great guy, was good to me, good to my mom, and loved me. But there was something that I needed from him that as a child, as a girl child, there are things that are taboo. You can't sit on stepdaddy's lap. You understand what I'm saying? Because it's not appropriate.
Yeah.
Not that he was gonna do anything to me, just that my mama taught me, you don't stand between men's legs, you don't sit on men's lap. And that meant no man, uncle, nobody. And so there was something that I was missing that I didn't know that I needed. So coming from the relationship with my children's father, I worked. I was a breadwinner. I went and I got it. And so that's what I did. And I remember my children's father telling me, he's deceased now. I don't remember at what point it was. Me and my husband was together and we were having a conversation. And he said to me, you robbed me of my manhood. And it didn't click until me and my husband was separated. And it was because I was so busy trying to be an independent black woman in a relationship that I forgot my role. My role is
You was
never.
in a marriage.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was in a marriage. You're right.
Correction.
Come on now.
And that's something as a wife that you have to be able to accept. Because I wasn't in a relationship. I was in a marriage. And so, and I had to view it differently. I couldn't continue to view my marriage with my husband as I have viewed my relationship with my children's father. Okay, go ahead.
So, in reference to how the fidelity piece happens, there's now an emotional void that is being filled by someone else, and that's where the infidelity happens.
So it was smooth. At the same time, you didn't realize that emotional connection. Did you realize it from the very beginning that the emotional connection was happening, or did all of a sudden it was like, dang?
No, initially it was. I thought
You were just
it was just friendly conversation.
yeah.
Because what happened is, she's at work in the evening, and and I'm gonna let her elaborate. She loves to talk about the emotional orgasm, so I'm gonna let her talk about that real quick. But for me, there was no opportunity to decompress in the evening, and that individual became that way or that outlet.
Somebody to talk to
Bam, there you
after
go.
at the end of the day when you want to
Absolutely.
communicate with
There
your
you go.
husband or your wife or whatever, and they not there, then you know, ooh,
Yes.
I'm telling you, the devil is tricky because when my husband was working nights, let me tell you, I'm telling you, I heard a little something whisper. He said, you know what? He would never know the difference. You can have him in and out before you get home. That's what the devil said. I said, devil, you a lie, okay?
A real lie.
And but when you in the beginning, when you frustrated and you are needing that from your spouse or your mate, you know, that is something him and I talked about the other night. And I'm like, you know, I don't think I was ever tempted to cheat, but then he tried it, but I just didn't fall for it. And he even sent some exes along the way. You know, like, what he got to do with me? He got a whole lot to do with you, sir. You know,
That sounds like
and
a
me
crime
too.
waiting to happen.
All I'm saying is, so I totally get it when you said you was looking for a way to decompress, and she wasn't there, and that the enemy just sent somebody right on in there to be your friend.
And that's what I call the emotional orgasm. That's where and you can have that with anybody. It could be your mother, your best friend. You know, that first person when you get in the car, or when something bad happens, you be like, girl, or when something good happens, you be like, you ain't gonna believe it. That's what I call the emotional orgasm, because what happens is when you have that release with somebody. So if I talk to my best friend on the way home before I get home with my husband, when I get home, he says, how's work? I'm like, good. Because I don't have nothing to tell him. I've already released everything I need to release, whether it was good or bad. How was work? Good. What happened today? Nothing. Like, you've been gone for 8 hours and nothing has happened. You know what I'm saying? And people don't recognize that that's a sign. If I've been gone for 8 hours and ain't nothing happened, what happened today? Nothing. Nothing. You didn't talk to nobody, like nothing happened. So, yeah, I'm done with it.
Emotional orgasm.
It's called an
That's a
emotion-
good one,
It's
girl.
called because there's a
I'm gonna have to use
there's a
that.
sense of relief that you get. You know what I'm saying? No matter who it is, when you get in that car and you be like, oh my God, or you run to the bathroom and be like, you can't believe what happened. There's a sense of you don't have to share it with anybody else because you're free. You like, ooh, I'm good.
I feel better.
Yeah, I feel
right.
better.
Absolutely, absolutely. So this person became your friend, disguised as your friend, and they might have really, maybe in the beginning, had good intentions.
No.
They never had good intentions.
No.
See, that's me. That's my fault. I'm always giving people the
that-
benefit of the doubt.
That is your fault because
Yeah, because I do that all the
in
time.
a lot of cases you don't recognize when the enemy is actually coming your way.
Well, he says what
Because I'm just saying with my wife
Oh.
because sometimes she lets her emotions get in
Naivety.
the way.
I'm always giving people the benefit of the doubt. Yes, that is totally my downfall.
And that's where I
Oh,
come
but
in.
after last year, honey, Miss Thing got her antennas on. It's not a game. Won't give me no more. That's all I'm saying. You won't give me no more.
I would say that from the emotional connection is as strong as anything physical.
It is.
Physical needs can be met by anyone.
True.
That can happen on a humbug. Meet you
That's
today,
why you have one-night
goodbye
stands.
tonight, it's a one-night stand. So the physical connection, easy. The emotional connection is the hard piece. Because now we're intertwined emotionally, and I depend on you to meet that emotional need.
Oh, my God.
And that's where the infidelity for us became
Reality.
it became reality.
Well, it was
real.
it was already infidelity when he had an emotional orgasm with her.
Yes.
That was already infidelity.
Already.
No matter who it is, that's infidelity. No matter who I choose to release to emotionally, I have cut that part of my relationship with my spouse off. So I've already cheated. You know what I'm saying? Because all infidelity is not sexual.
Yeah.
People, when they think infidelity, they think, oh, you having sex. No. He said the emotional connection is maybe even stronger than the physical. So when you leave me emotionally, we still screwing. Sorry, people. We still screwing, but I said it again, didn't I? But you're already gone. And that's what happens when people can be in a relationship. You hear women say, I didn't even know. But the man, he done had a whole nother family for 20 years because he been gone. He was still there for his obligation, you know what I'm saying, or for what it looked like. But emotionally,
He was disconnected.
he was gone.
Okay. So did you notice his emotional disconnect?
No, because
You didn't need that connection
no,
necessarily.
because
to feel love.
and that's what we learned probably a few years ago. We taught a marriage class and we talked about the love language. I didn't know that I needed that. He was fulfilling all of my needs. I was good. I wasn't lacking anything. I had the money. For me, everything that I needed. Keep in mind what he said was he put the kids to bed. He got the kids up for school. I was never there. When we talk to our kids right now as adults, they say, Mama, you was never home. I'm like, really? We went on trips? They're like, we didn't even know you. And the reality is when we get into the part where we separated, he was so great at taking care of me. I don't even think he realized it. I didn't know how to grocery shop. I didn't know how to do laundry. I didn't even know what size clothes my kids wore. That's how exceptionally well he worked. So he wasn't on stay-at-home dad. He worked every day, 2 or 3 jobs. But I had no idea. Not a clue.
Wow.
Yeah, not a clue. So when I think back over it, I'm like, oh my God, how can I just not come home? But I was so adamant about that money that I could not.
Your focus.
My focus was off. And again, I was in love. I was having an affair with money. He had an emotional connection with another woman, but the reality is I was cheating as well because I was in love with money. I was way more in love with money. At that point, I love money more than I love my children, more than I love my husband, way more than I love myself. Because anytime you go to work at 9 o'clock at night, get off at 7 o'clock in the morning, go from 7:30 to 3:30, when are you resting?
You're not.
And I did that 5 days a week for 4 years straight. The only thing that probably stopped me was the lady passed away. That's what happened. The lady passed away. But it was good money. It wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth what it cost me. It was not worth what it cost me. But it was good money. I don't work like that anymore.
No.
At all. I don't work overnights at all. So.
Okay.
Okay, what?
So, for me, as a woman,
Yes.
knowing, and I am the emotional woman, so I am that one that wants that love connection. Talk to me. Now, see, Jason is not the talker unless he's extremely frustrated about a situation. Then he'll come home and he'll be like, oh, he'll, release like that. But that's only the frustration part. He don't ever just be like, what's up, babe? He'll talk. I have to pull stuff out of him. You know what
But
I'm
at
saying?
times they'll do talk. But in a lot of cases, sometimes I'm ready to talk because my heart is just,
Your hands.
it's flowing out of my heart at that time. Sometimes you tend to go to sleep.
I know. I mean, sorry.
He said, I know.
That is funny.
Sorry.
He does do that. I do that on an accident, though. Remember, I told y'all that in the beginning.
I fall asleep all the
And
time.
I don't intend to fall asleep. And sometimes it's because his voice is so relaxing.
soothing.
His voice is so soothing to me. I just be like, okay, and what else happened? And then before I know it,
So I need to holler and yell.
you don't need to
Can you do
holler
that?
and yell.
Oh, I can.
But maybe if you touched a little more, I wouldn't fall asleep, You'd be like, babe, a little more. See, like your hands, you interact a lot with your hands. So, maybe just being a little
You
more
don't fall asleep
interactive with your...
anyway.
No. Okay, so I am that emotional. So I can tell if he is disconnected. And we have had our moments where life has brought us to those disconnected moments. And I don't know, somehow, some way, I'm like, listen, you better talk, because we got to talk. Whatever's going on, we need to talk about it. You ain't saying nothing, but I feel it. What's happening,
But lately, if we've had any kind of disconnects, our son has been the one to bring us back.
Yes. Yeah, he's really good at that, Jose. He wants to make sure, although he don't want us to get him no sibling, let's go ahead and keep that real. Being the biggest CB ever, if he was here, he'd be like, no. But he wants a sibling. But he wants to make sure we stay in love, though, So that's good. So this lady that became your emotional connection, how long did it take for that emotional connection to become the physical connection?
Man, that's a great
You want me to answer? I'm just messing with you.
She got dates and time.
Once we separate.
Separated?
Yeah.
Okay, so y'all gotta talk about where that happened. So y'all was in a rush to get married. So how long did it take before the separation happened?
6.5 years.
Was it 6.5? We were married in 99. The separation happened December of 2006.
December 12th, 2006.
I didn't want to say it today.
Oh, that's okay.
Wow. So how long was y'all separated?
Go ahead. She can give you all the dates and times.
26 months. We separated December 12th. He decided to come home February something. And then he had to tie up his loose ends. And then he finally made it home in March. That's what you said. He said, I have to tie up some loose ends and then I'll be home. So, stop laughing. That's what you say. So December, okay, so I found out about the affair in November of 2004.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes. I found out the affair in November of 2004.
Wow. Wait a minute. Hold on. Stop.
I thought it was 5.
So-
no, Uncle Rickman died, Dale died, we lost the baby, all of that happened.
So you said 2004.
But you all got married in 99.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That 5 year.
Okay.
So what I'm trying to figure out though is,
He said it was
Okay.
2005. Anyway, it was November. It was
so
Thanksgiving.
you found out about the infidelity then. What had it become sexual at that point?
Still emotional.
Just still emotional. Okay.
And the way I found out was he left his cell phone on the kitchen counter,
Ooh.
and I picked it up.
Check your cell phone records.
And I'm a whole lot calmer than I used to be. Thank the Lord for
Hallelujah for
Because
deliverance.
I was a bucker and a jerker.
Oh,
And,
okay.
So I called old girl. I'm like, hey, Booski,
Oh
what's
boy.
going down?
Jesus.
You know, and she was like,
Oh,
Your
you doing
husband-
one of them?
your husband is so nice. He's so calm. He's so sweet. I said,
Push that thing.
keyword, my husband.
Okay.
So as time went on, so I confronted him about it, blah, blah, blah. I never stopped working because he never said, well, if you wasn't working, I'm very, very literal. So when he said, I need you home, that's not come home. That's like, I need you home. I'm like, okay, you want me to come home? Bruh, let's get this money. That was always my rebuttal. We've learned how to communicate since then. So what was the final straw? Because I was still working. And all of my needs were still being met. Keep in mind, even though I knew that there was because all I knew is that there was a conversation between him and this young lady. None of my stuff had been broken. You understand what I'm saying? He was still taking care of, all my needs were being met.
So when you think in terms of her love language, what was your love
At that time,
Yes.
acts of service. So, because at that time, again, keep in mind, everything was taken care of. We were going on vacation. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, our
You
sex
still
life was,
getting your honey time
yeah,
in.
everything was still great. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We still dated. Like we still date. We still dated then. So nothing really changed for me. The straw that broke the camel's back was the young lady called my phone.
Oh. Oh no! What is it called?
Yeah.
Jesus.
It was okay for me to call her, but it wasn't okay for her to call. But here's the thing: she was never disrespectful.
Okay.
She was never disrespectful.
Okay,
And
okay.
I'm so grateful because I would probably be in prison. I'm so grateful.
Come back.
Right. Cause
Come
did
back.
you see me? Oh,
I
I
know
saw
where-
red.
I know where your head was going. Come
So
back.
she called my phone. This is why she called my phone. And at the time, I worked at a place where I couldn't talk on the phone, so I had to step away. And I recognized the number, so I called her back and I said, "Hey, can I help you?" And she said, "Oh, this is what got me, because I'm very, very literal, and I hear what you say." She said, "Oh, my son meant to call him because I have a migraine."
Hmm?
I said, "Oh."
Why is that his problem?
I said,
I
"Oh,
said-
because he was her boss."
Oh.
Okay.
That's what she said.
Okay.
Oh, was
Yeah, he was her boss. And so I said, "Oh, so your son knows my husband." See, initially I thought it was just a little bit of phone conversation, a little bit of banter. You cute, I'm cute. You know, I'm like, I don't care about that. It ain't affecting me none.
Right.
My home ain't being affected. But when you start telling your son,
Now, hold on.
first of all, your son know his number, but he accidentally called mine. And see, I'm not dumb. So what really was that she was calling to tell me, like, she was trying to, how you be like, I've been numbered too long enough. I want
I'm
my
ready to
place.
be number one.
No. What I was, so when I got home that night, I said, hey, bro, it's time to go.
Was that in December?
Yes, that was December 12th. I said, hey, bro, it's time to go. He's like, oh, I'm cool. I'm not going nowhere. No, bro, we good. We good. So that kind of spiraled him.
You was that calm? Oh my God, I
was
would
pretty
not
calm.
have been calm.
I was pretty calm.
But somebody being that calm was very dangerous.
I am.
I would have been
Was I
throwing
not?
from the first moment.
He was pretty calm.
That's if I'm overly animated, that's a beautiful thing. If I get to the point where I'm like, hey, and I'm smelling like, okay,
Oh yeah, I get like that
that's
too.
me
I get-
trying to control, because this is a whole lot of man. So I can't really just run up on him and put my hands on him, because if he hit me, it's gonna be very obvious. And that's not. I wasn't really ready for that.
Guess what?
I wasn't ready for that. But I was ready for, and what I thought I was ready for was, I thought I was ready for it to be over. So that turned into the 26 month.
26 months.
26 month of separation.
Let me say, I'm gonna have to take my hats off to you, sis, because I don't know that I would have been that calm, and I wouldn't have cared how big he was or how hard he hit. I probably would have just been like, nigga, what?
Nah, I
It would have been on the popping.
You
Before
know-
he knew, I would have. I mean, like, that's kind of me. I think first and I act later. So you had already contemplated. You had some time to think about it and marinate a little bit.
And my children.
Even now, still, I don't always try to react out of my emotions. I'm a whole lot better than I used to be as a child. But I still, I don't know. Yeah.
Keep in mind, my children are home, and this is their dad. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So there were some things, and I wasn't sure that I wanted the relationship to be over, but I knew at that moment I could not take it. It was gonna get real bad real quick.
Real quick.
Yeah, and I would have been putting my hands on him, and he would have been like, stop. And somebody gonna only let you slap them around for so long.
So many times.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And because I'm one of those people that I'm not a fast anger, and I wasn't mad, I was hurt. So I do better if you make me mad, I can deal with that because I can forgive you. But if you hurt me, then I got to contemplate how I let you get in, why I let you get in. So I'm not only mad at you, I'm mad at me, I'm mad at you, I'm mad at all the other people that look like me, that make it known. You know what I'm saying? That make it known that this happened. So I had to, there were some things that I needed to do. But what I will say, in the 26 months, I learned so much. We talked that entire time. So when he left for the 26 months, I don't really know.
Did you still date him though? I mean, like, or was y'all just not seeing each other, period?
I don't know. We still slept together. I still seen him. All of that. All of that. Because he was my husband. You know what I'm saying? All of that. I will say, he was never disrespectful. Oh, there was this one. Maybe. Yeah. No, it was never blatant. I never saw him and the young lady out, and God was so gracious, because then I would have flipped out.
Yes.
Oh, I would have flipped all the way out.
Completely out.
Now, I did have a flip out. I did have one flip out moment, but we all survived.
But we all survived. That means somebody got hurt though. We survived it.
No. I kept my hands to myself, and it was God was gracious. He was gracious.
Okay, come on, bring on the question, baby.
Now, during that time of the separation,
Yeah, that's what I've been watching this time.
when she told you that you had to go, what was your initial reaction? How did you feel at that moment?
I didn't want to leave because prior to coming home, I knew that there had been a phone call earlier that evening. And I had made a decision when I got home that I was going to figure out how to rectify the marriage and make it work. I had the conversation with the individual, with the young lady, as well as I called my best friend and had a conversation with him. So I was going home with the mindset, I'm going to make this right.
You're gonna
we're
work
going to
it.
get on the right track.
Right.
Unbeknownst to me, she was thinking something completely
I was already
different
gone.
when I got to the house.
I was already gone. And had I don't know. You know, you can always think back and be like, oh, well, maybe I could have, and maybe it would have saved me 26 months of heartbreak. But again, I would not have been the person that I was. You know what I'm saying? What I did 9 years ago, 'cause we've been back together since March 2009. So, 2 years ago.
Oh, 24, yeah, 2009.
I wouldn't be the person that I am. I wouldn't be as appreciative.
Okay, so in this 26 months that he was gone, from emotional to physical, was you staying? Did you have your own place, or did you stay with the one on the other side?
I'll drink to that.
Yeah, you know,
He needs to have another drink of water too.
Or do you need a shot? Which one?
You know, it's the funny part about the whole.
What'd you say? Come on, just get it out.
I'm gonna get it out. You gotta roll with me for a second.
Okay.
It's in layers.
The
He's
crazy
trying
part
to get it
about
out.
this 26 months is that there were things happening that you knew were signs like, you should fix your marriage and go back home, but you ignored them. So it started off with a car wreck.
Christmas Eve. So on December 12th, we split up. He totaled his car on
Totaled
December
my
24th.
car.
So the Lord was spanking you the whole time, huh?
He was whooping me, and I was just taking it like,
He liked whoopings.
yeah. I'm just gonna keep taking these whippings as they come, and he whipped me for 26 months.
Wow. But where'd you stay? You didn't answer that question.
I
That's a good question.
didn't really have a place. So like my mother's house.
So you
Was
just
my
kind of
brother.
bounced around from place to
Man,
place?
Listen, once you out in the deep end,
You just
you're out there with no lifesaver, and I was out there with no lifesaver. I was just out there.
I think sometimes when you go so far,
You don't know how to get back.
you don't know how to get back. You know what I'm saying? Because now your marriage is, you know what I'm saying, your marriage is destroyed, and how do you get back from that? Like, where do you go? Because this ain't nobody you really saw yourself with. Y'all was just kicking it. They were filling a void. You know what I'm saying? And
Mhm.
now you have an even deeper void. So they were just feeling an emotional connection. So now the physical connection that you had, it's almost like Build-A-Bear. So as a man, that's why you see men with a whole bunch of women. So they have a woman for this, and a woman for this, and a woman for this, because they can't find the complete package. So what happened was, in an area I was lacking, he chose this young lady, and then the area I was fulfilling, I withdrew that.
Mhm.
So then he relied solely on this young lady, but that's not what he wanted to do. Does that
Mhm.
make sense?
Right.
And it's almost like I got in over my head, and now I don't know how to, because how do I get back to where I was?
Come back?
And the crazy part is, it'll never be back the way that it was, because we weren't the same people. 26 months later, I couldn't be the exact same woman I was prior to that. And I wouldn't have wanted to take him back as the same man. There had to be some growth. There had to be some changes.
Do something.
Yeah, and was it painful? But you hear about kids having growing pains all the time. It was painful. I learned a lot about myself that I had no idea. How selfish and inconsiderate I was. I had no idea. So I held a responsibility, and that's what a lot of women don't like to talk to me about infidelity.
Mhm.
Because there's a responsibility that a woman plays in that.
That's right.
And so I had to own my part. So am I
Mhm.
saying I did something that made him cheat? No. But I did something that perpetuated the cheating, if that
Mhm.
makes sense. Does that make
Absolutely.
sense? So I can't make
Absolutely.
him, the final choice about what he did was his own.
What's mine?
But when he said to me, I want you to come home, you know what I'm saying? That should have been a conversation that I was willing to have. What is it that you need from me? But because at the time I was so selfish with what I wanted and not because I had, my needs were met. I
You
keep
want
saying
that
that.
money.
And my needs were met. He met every need that I had. So I was so selfish. I'm like, are you good? Here go this money. Go buy yourself something. He didn't need my money. That's the crazy part. He worked 3 jobs. He didn't need my money. He was perfectly fine. But because I was so self-centered, and it was all about me. And I had 3 kids, but it was all about me. And I had to go. It was all about me. And that's the part that I own. Does it excuse him having an affair? No. But I too was having one. If we're being honest, really honest, I was having an affair. It wasn't a physical affair, but emotionally I wasn't there. Like you said, he needed me emotionally. I wasn't there. Emotionally, I was in love with the dollar and wasn't getting nothing in return.
I hear,
Darling.
wait a minute. OJ's, I hear it in my head. That's my song. Okay?
Okay, sorry.
Okay. No, but really.
But yes.
That is real, man. Okay, so for me, I don't know that I could take that, but I think let me tell you, I was a hard worker too. When me and Jason got married, I always had like 2 jobs from the very beginning. Then the Lord just kind of he shut everything down. Oh my God. I was completely like having meltdowns because like I didn't have a paycheck coming in my name. I felt some kind of way that there was not a paycheck coming in my name, you know? And I think it's because of upbringing sometimes, because I grew up in a household where my mom was the sole provider. I did not have a father there. I did not understand that the man's position is to provide and to cover his family. I didn't have a complete understanding of all of this stuff. So all of this came with me into my marriage. And although he did have a job and I had a job, when the Lord took me away from all of that, oh my goodness, I felt, it just wasn't good. And then with him, and when it became a money issue, whether he realized it or not, he didn't necessarily say that he wanted me to be working, but it was just certain things that would happen. And so I felt the need to always have a job, you know what I'm saying? And when God said, I don't know, you need to totally depend. I was like, what? What you mean?
You had to financially submit to your husband?
Oh my goodness. It was the hardest thing that I ever had to do, is all I'm going to say. Especially coming from a single parent household. It was difficult because it was not just solely trusting this man to provide for me and not complain about it. It was also me saying that, okay, this guy's got me no matter what. And I don't know that I completely trusted that because, you know, Daddy, every time Daddy said he was going to come through, unfortunately, mothers and fathers, we really are laying some type of foundation for our children, whether we realize it or not. Man, we have to be careful the way we parent and the things that happen in this, because I was all jacked up thinking, okay, no, I'm doing this.
Expecting the promise to be broken.
Yes.
I had a serious abandonment issue.
Yes, me too. Abandonment, rejection, I felt all of that.
And I think that's probably why I couldn't really connect, because his love for me was so unfamiliar, if that makes sense. It was so unfamiliar. To this day, he always, even when he calls me or he says, hey, beautiful, it's been that way since the beginning of time. And now I think he just calls me love. A lot of people don't know my name, because if he's talking to somebody, he calls me wife. But I think that I'll just share this. As I said, my biological father was in prison, and there was something that I needed from him that I did not get. And once he was home, he's been home for a while now. He was home, I was able to get it. But I think that played a role in my abandonment issues, because there was so many broken and so many empty promises. And so I had my first son was 16, and you know, his dad wasn't there. And then I had my other two kids, and their dad was there physically, but he wasn't really there financially. So there was so many, and I just expected him to leave. I didn't know how long, and I think it was subconsciously. I just expected him to leave. So I had prepared a foundation for me and my children, because at the end of the day, that's it. It's me and them against the world.
Right.
And that wasn't the case, because he came in, he's like, I got you, and I'm like, but for how long though?
Okay,
you know
right.
Like,
right. I get that.
Really got
I
me.
totally feel you.
But I think that has something to do with A, growing up without a father, and B, mothers not teaching women how to be submissive, how to be able to receive. Because we're so busy giving that when someone comes to receive, we're always looking for the alternative.
Yes.
Ulterior motive.
Like,
what do you want?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And for someone to come and be like, I got you, you're like,
I'm not sure about that.
You know, so that is. Do you have any more questions for us?
Well, because we are winding up, we're only an hour. We got about 7 minutes, y'all. I do have some more questions, and I don't know. We'll have to probably play back because I seen the screen scrolling, but
we didn't have any questions.
Okay, no questions tonight.
Everybody was just listening.
Everybody listening in. Okay, so what I can say to you is in this 2-year time span that you guys were separated, and you was trying to find your way back to your wife, I would say, in that manner, back into her good graces. Okay, and I'm gonna say good graces because there was some part of her that had to be willing to let it go. You know what I'm saying? Let her guard back down after this happened.
I'm gonna throw a disclaimer in there real quick. There's no way that we can even finish this up within a few minutes that we have.
Yes.
But I will say this as we begin to wrap up. We have become content with getting the divorce. We were at peace with each other.
And
we was friendly about it. We was friendly about getting the divorce.
The
We
papers
sat out
were signed and everything.
Baby,
we were getting the
we was
divorce.
good.
We were done.
And we were
Wow.
still we were still good. Why?
We were done.
Because through all of this, he was still my friend.
We were done.
Because I realized my part in it. I realized what I did. I realized I owned my part.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so
Okay,
This was
so
fun.
this was a great show, y'all. Yeah, we're gonna have to come back for at least another part.
Yeah.
We might end up having to have it for 2 more times just to get all the questions
Yeah,
out.
because I think there's some things in the 26 months that
Yes, sir.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord.
haven't been,
It's a lot.
haven't been touched on.
I thought we was gonna smooth on over that.
Yeah,
No, we can't smooth over that.
Oh, yeah,
There's
that's
some things in there.
because the man, there are the people that we're trying to help that are listening, who are curious about it, or even if they just being nosy because they about to walk into it. They need help. You know, people need to understand that these things, the enemy didn't stop with y'all trying to do this to marriages. This y'all was just a few of the peas that fell under the pod, under his umbrella. But this has happened many times before. And it has ruined marriages. And the whole point of Marriage 101 with the Allens is to keep it real with folks and to help them through the tough stuff that they can't go to the church and get help for.
Honey, that's a whole nother segment.
Listen, so that's what we're doing. We're not counselors, but we're here to help.
And I want to say this.
Way.
I want to say this as one of the producers behind the scene, Michael Rose. He said this is very encouraging.
Oh, thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Because
That's what we want to do.
my wife and I, we personally know Mike's story. And so
It's encouraging because there's a lot of people that cannot go to the church to get the help that they need. And if they do, you know, they're going to say pray about it. But what about when you don't want to pray about it? What about when you want to choke that nigga?
What are you supposed to pray?
I mean, like,
what do you say to God? Yo, Jesus, my husband having an affair. Or, yo, God, I don't love my wife no more. Like, that's not even a real comment.
it's really not. It's
And
really
he
not.
already knows. So what are you supposed to say? The problem is, me and my husband talked about this so much, is women have their friends and we can go and I can call you and I can cry. But when a man is having a problem, who does he pick up the phone and say,
Who
yo,
can he
bro,
talk to?
my life is jacked up. I love my wife, but I love old girl too, and I don't know what to do. Who can he call without somebody saying you weak, you simple? When you're dealing with the same thing, there's no soft place for a man to land it. If you can't land on your wife because y'all have that conflict, then you find yourself, as my husband said, all over the place because you're in a million pieces. You know what I'm saying? Because there's no stability. A woman, a wife, should bring some stability to a husband's life. That's why I would say, as a woman, you the neck. You bring stability to the
Boy,
head.
ain't you the neck?
Yeah, you bring. And the best thing about the neck is you have the ability to turn the head in whichever way you please because you're
Come
so
on
persuasive.
now.
But as the neck, you are supportive of the head.
All right. So, one more
have
question?
one comment.
Okay, one more comment.
Cousin Cheryl wanted to thank you all for coming on this evening.
Thank
You
you
were
for
For sharing
happy
your
to be here.
experiences.
Oh, we're happy
She
to be
loved it
here.
very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Cheryl, cousin. Lindsay?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure we was talking about the same one. Okay, so y'all, we have 2 minutes. We will have the stewards back for another show, possibly maybe 3 if we don't get it all out.
From 2 to 3. God
Yeah,
bless-
just
God bless
because.
you, mother.
Because we want to make sure this story gets out and to tell how y'all got to y'all 20 years and y'all love one another. Well, okay, about to be 20 in July.
Yeah, don't rush it, baby. Don't rush it. We're gonna enjoy the entire ride.
So, you know, people need to understand that that there is hope.
Oh, there's hope.
There is hope. And so I want to end with that. What, baby?
I was gonna say, Nene said she didn't know she could ask questions.
Yes,
Feel free.
feel free.
They'll be back
honey.
on next week.
Yeah.
Next week. We're going to have them again next week. Feel free to ask whatever questions.
Yeah.
They
We're
said they're
transparent.
willing to ask any questions you may have. And that's it, y'all. You know, this is how we are. We'll answer any question. They'll answer any questions. They were willing to do that. So we want to say thank you to everybody who tuned in tonight. Thank you so much for the stewards coming on and sharing their story and helping others as we help one another to live according to the way the Lord wants us to live and be happy and in love.
Amen.
In love. Amen. Good night, everybody.
Good night.